I just feel like our hair has held us back from doing so much more. And that's another reason that Tempus Hood is so important to me, because
she is one of the very few African-American women to receive a patent since the late 1860s. You heard that right. Welcome to Come Back with Erica Cobb, a community of folks like yourselves who are getting ready and staying ready for their next chapter. Well, maybe your next chapter includes wearing multiple hats, like my guest today, who has a professional career as a digital marketer, but her hustle is her invention, Tempus Hood Inc. Now, Tempus Hood is the only patented transferrable product designed to help protect women's hair from unexpected weather. Its uniqueness is recognized by the USPTO as she received a patent for it in 2019. She is one of the very few African-American women to receive a patent since the late 1860s. You heard that right. And she is also believed to be the only African-American woman to have received a patent in Colorado in this century. Sirena Rolfe, welcome to Come Back with Erica Cobb.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. Okay, first let's talk about wearing all the hats, literally, okay? Because you're a digital marketer, you're a university instructor, and an entrepreneur as far as working with your patented products. So how do you juggle or make possible all the many hats that you wear?
You know, what's funny is I don't really recognize I'm wearing a lot of hats until people tell me I'm wearing a lot of hats. So honestly, teaching has always been something I've wanted to do for a long time anyway. And I've been in digital marketing since early 2000s, and I love to pay it forward. And so when I got the opportunity to teach at CU Boulder, I just was like, yes, of course, I will do this. And then my invention came along back in 2012, and just going through the notions of that journey, in addition to having a day job, right? You just move with it. You just, take it in strides and take a breath every now and then, and still recognize that you do need some time to yourself, because we talk about this a lot with mental health, but just recognizing, okay, I need a breath. Okay, I need to shut it down. Okay, I'm ready to come back feeling rejuvenated or what have you, And so it is a lot of hats, but it's all things I love doing. So I think that's what makes it easy.
I love the idea of one, having the mental health conversation because, we always are kind of like doing this duality thing where we're like, okay, we need to take care of ourselves. We need to make sure that we are taking the time to make the time for the things that are important. But also, as type A personalities, as very driven women, we can see opportunities and places where we should be taking leaps, even though we have other things going on. So a few months ago, I had a couple of entrepreneurs who kept referring to themselves as working entrepreneurs, as in they kept their day job, but also decided to go on this entrepreneurial journey. So I'm wondering what in your skill set of all the other things that you do in your life really worked in accordance with becoming an entrepreneur?
Yeah, great question. So, in my digital job, so my day job as a digital marketer, there's a lot of strategy that goes with what I do. There's a lot of strategy in how do we make clients' brands recognized in digital marketing, right? Does that mean social media? Does that mean video? Does that mean display ads, search ads, whatever it is? And I'm always thinking about ways to make it better. So there's always yeah, we were successful, but how do we make that better? Or, we didn't do so great. How do we make that better? And so I think that thinking of making something better is what drove me to recognize that I needed to make something better with regards to protecting my hair. And so I think that it just kind of, gave me the ability to think about making something better. But then I also now needed to think, how do I execute that? And so in my day job, I have an amazing team that helps me think about and strategize cool things, but the execution of that may be something that's over my head, right? But with my hood, it was they say the mother of inventions is the necessity behind that need of it, right? And I think putting myself in a situation of, I don't want to lug around a huge coat that has a hood because it's warm out. I don't want to have an umbrella because umbrella etiquette is just poor.
Yeah.
And I also don't want to lug that around either. And then I didn't want to lug around a wool cap or a hat or whatever. So how do I fix that? And believe it or not, there aren't, because I received a patent for it, there weren't others like it.
Mm,
People buy coats with attachable hoods for that coat, but not an attachable hood that's versatile for other coats.
right.
And not a hood that is so packable that you can literally throw it in your pocket or your handbag and go, right? So to get to your initial question, I think it is the how do I make things better that ultimately drove me to inventing Tempus Hood.
Mm. I mean, when you think about it, it's like when you talk about the necessity breeds invention,
Yeah.
it's like, wow, yeah. Like when you
Yeah.
were going through all of the ways that we protect, especially we as Black women,
Right.
protect our hair and all of the problematic things that arise with, let's say, for instance, when you said a wool cap,
Right.
we aren't really supposed to put wool directly onto our natural hair. Or
Right.
every time I leave the house with an umbrella, I forget it wherever I
Right.
left it.
Right. So true.
Yeah, so it's such a genius product, and I mean, you had to have, but when I say it now, like, it was such a genius product, but you're talking about the conception of it. When you
Mhm.
talk to other people, were they like, "Yeah," or did you get some pushback on that?
That's a great question. So I had a mixed bag. People's responses were, well, I'll just grab an umbrella. And then my response is, right, but then you'll leave it somewhere, or you don't want to actually take it out of your car because it's clunky, right? So that's the people's natural responses is they'll grab an umbrella. But
Mhm.
then on the flip side of that is, oh my gosh, this is such a great idea. And because it is water resistant nylon, it doesn't stick to our hair, right? As a natural hair Black women, we don't have to worry about our hair getting caught in the thread or getting caught in the hat itself. So it was a mixed bag of, yeah, that's great. But why can't I just grab an umbrella? So it is very much dependent on who I was speaking to. And honestly, my enthusiasm behind my hood gives people the excitement about my hood, whether they are for it or not, because I'm like, oh my God, let me talk to you about my hood. Let me talk about my invention. They're like, ooh, this is some good energy. I want to hear.
Yeah.
And so it's whether they're like, grab an umbrella or not, there's still like very cool idea. If that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Just out of curiosity, because anytime we talk about just an experiment or like when you're hypothesizing things, there's always one constant. So, was
Yeah.
there a constant to the demographic that you were kind of loosely surveying, or were you just kind of asking, people in whoever it was in your circle?
So it started out with my family and friends, so my close knit circle. And my partner, actually, when I shared it with him, I actually had him sign a little NDA of like, don't share this because I don't know where it's going to go. This was way
Right.
before even the patent idea even popped in my head. I just was like, keep it to yourself because I don't know where it's going. Um, so I think the I guess the core behind it was really just like, if I need this, I know other women need this, so I'm going to focus on young professional women in my current environment. So I moved from friends and family to people I worked with to people in social media, and just kind of got their thoughts around it. But I didn't really have like a just a random group of people that I would talk to. I didn't really
Mhm.
start kind of branching out until I started crowdfunding. And
Mm.
that's when it was like getting other people's thoughts on the hood that weren't, enticed by my excitement, that literally just saw, oh, this person's crowdfunding. Oh, let me see what it is. Oh, I
Yeah.
don't know her, so I can be objective. Do you know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
like a little bit of a journey from kind of widening my net or casting my net, if you will.
So when you got to the crowdfunding portion of the program, did you have an actual prototype? Like, what was that entire process like?
Yeah, so it was tough because you really have to sell yourself. And one of the biggest struggles, and even with other inventors that I know, the hardest job is selling your idea as the inventor. So if I gave it to you, Erica, and said, hey, go sell it, you could probably do an amazing job. But for me to say, it's mine, it's mine, please buy this, please love this as much as I do, was really hard. And so crowdfunding makes you get your elevator pitch right, makes you get your overall goal right. What's your success look like? What does failure look like? Why do I want these people to fund me? Right. So you're now turning your I'm an inventor into I'm a salesperson.
Mm.
And that's a really hard thing to do if you're not naturally talented to sell. And I'm not. So it was definitely very hard. And then once I had crowdfunding started, now I have to entice people to want to fund me, right? Does that mean I give them a hood, which is a prototype? Does that mean I give them a t-shirt? Do I give them other swag? Like, what's going to keep them excited to give me funds, but also stay along with me during my journey, right? So it is a journey in itself with crowdfunding, but it does get you out of your comfort zone, which I appreciated.
Well, Serena, I'm going to be really honest. I don't think that I wouldn't have thought that would have been hard for you because you're such like you're such a personable like you're a
Thank you.
delightful person to be around. You have an energy about you.
Thank you.
So I think maybe I wasn't there, but I'm like, I feel like she might be being a little hard on herself in terms of it being, but also I think anytime you're asking when there's a monetary ask, I think
Right.
it does require a different part of yourself,
It
especially
does. Yeah.
as a independent and very successful person already. So I could see that. Comeback community, we are speaking with Sirena Rolfe. Okay, so Sirena is like not only a university professor, she's not only a digital marketer, but she is also, as far as we know, the only Black woman in Colorado to own a patent. And we are talking about Tempus Hood. So, what comes first, Sirena, the crowdfunding or the patent?
So, great question. It depends on if you need funds to help you produce your prototype,
Mm,
or if you need funds to help you market, or it just depends on kind of where you are in your journey. For me, I did crowdfunding while I was in the patent process.
mm,
So, just to give you Reader's Digest version of the patent process, it is a long wait. You submit for a patent, it can take up to 36 months before they review your
wow.
application. Then once they review your application, it can take another 2 years or so before you hear anything. So while you're in this space, of course, you're like, this is so exciting. But then you're like, oh my God, what if I should change something? This is so exciting. Wait, maybe I should go back to the drawing board. So there's like all these thoughts going through your head while you're waiting. And so during the waiting process is a great time to crowdfund
Mm,
because it gets people excited for the idea that you're going for a patent. But while you're on that journey, people are helping you get there. So
mm,
that gets them excited to be a part of it. If you receive a patent and then you crowdfund, what are you doing, right? Are you wanting to market it more? Are you wanting money for a website? Are you wanting money for materials, production? Like, what do you need it for now that you've made it past the patent level?
mhm.
What's also interesting with mine is I had a couple people ask me, well, why did you need a patent for something that's an apparel that's considered an apparel?
Mhm.
Um, and that was a tough question for me because to me it was, why are they, why do I need it? Instead of, very cool, how did you get it? Right? To me, those are different questions. One feels
Right,
defensive and one feels curious.
right.
And so because of that, it was very much, I felt like, how do I when I crowdfunded, it was after I received the patent. It was during kind of the process and then after. So
Mhm.
I promise I'm going somewhere. So during that time, it was very hard for me to feel like now I have to reprove myself to why I invented this, why I want a patent. And now that I received a patent, why did I need to get a patent? Right. So it was very, very weird. So it really is about the inventor's journey and what they need the money for to why they want to crowdfund. Um, because that then helps tell the story and gets people interested in wanting to support. That was kind of long-winded, but that's kind of the
Well,
it's kind
no.
of a little bit of everything of how it went, how my process went.
No, I think, myself and the listeners are just very curious about, first of all, the patent process, the
Yeah.
crowdfunding, because there are a lot of people out there who have wonderful ideas that could be brought to fruition. But just as you said, the semantics and why do you
Mhm.
need a patent versus what was that process like? Two different questions that could really mean the difference for somebody who
Sure.
isn't 100% feeling the strongest about their idea, not because it's not a great idea, but maybe
Right.
they are feeling exactly what you said earlier, that, maybe I don't have the personality to be the salesperson and get other people on board with my idea, but I do have this really great idea. And that could deter someone or set them back for years if the wrong person says exactly what
Yeah.
you're saying, where it feels a little bit more, like a negative response than
Right.
an affirmative one. So, no, I really appreciate your transparency. I'm also curious because a lot of people think about crowdfunding or investing and they
Sure.
think like a Shark Tank. So,
Right.
was there ever a time where you were thinking of going that route? Was there someone who came out as more of like an angel investor during that process?
Yeah, so a little bit of both. I had an angel investor, or I have an angel investor, and I did seek out Shark Tank. When I was seeking out Shark Tank, a lot of the participants they had on the show had to have a certain amount of profit hit
Hmm.
to be considered to be on the show. And I just don't have a lot of revenue coming in for my hits because I haven't spent. Well, first we had a pandemic that pretty much shut us down for a little while, but also I haven't really spent a lot of time finding that outside source to help me market it properly. Now, what's funny with me saying that is I am a digital marketer,
Right.
right? So I should be able to, but as I said before, it's so hard to market and sell your own product. So I know that that's a handicap that I have. Therefore, I need to hire someone to help me do that efficiently and remove myself from it. And I think it would go a lot further. So um, for that reason, Shark Tank would be awesome. I have a couple girlfriends that were on Shark Tank for sure, but I don't feel like I'm in a situation to have Shark Tank be interested, number one, and number two, have enough product to feel like I was on Shark Tank. Now I have 1,000 orders. Can I fulfill those? Right. So there's a little bit of the am I in the right space to fulfill the ask once I was on something as large as Shark Tank. So that's why I have like angel investors or smaller investors or even my own money to help produce and create my hood for the amount of customers that I currently have versus the masses.
Right. This is such an interesting space too, because as you know, I do a daily talk show.
Yeah.
So we've had like Mark Cuban on, we had Barbara from Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful. We've had just about all the sharks in the
Right.
tank. Like,
Right.
all the sharks in the tank have been on our show. And that has been just an interesting conversation as well, because one of Mark Cuban was on not that long ago,
Okay,
and
right.
one of my co-hosts, Jeff, has his own Jardiniere line, and he's not doing mass production. And the first thing Mark said was start at at basically at farmers markets. And
Mm,
then you go from farmers markets to whatever that next step is. And
right.
then I was sitting here listening, thinking like, well, what is that first step? Is it a farmers market? Because we think of farmers market as being, things that we actually eat. Is there, what does that look like, especially with a product that really is for anyone? But I
Right.
think it speaks so loudly to other Black women, especially, or
Right.
other women of color, especially because, like, once there's moisture that hits our hair,
Yeah. Right. And if you're not prepared for it, it can ruin your whole day.
we're dealing with a totally different conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's almost like you were talking about crowdfunding, but now you're talking about like crowd think tanks as well. Like,
Yeah.
how do we as a community come together to support the efforts of not just your product with Tempest Hood, but
Mhm.
also there have to be other inventors that are in the same situation. So have you spoken to other people who are in a situation similar to yours? Like, is there like an inventors club, so to speak?
Yeah, so there are inventor meetup groups out here in Colorado and Denver specifically, and there are also a lot of nonprofits that I've supported too. Like Sister Biz is an African American nonprofit here that supports women of color who are entrepreneurs or in business or want to have their own business. And then there's other areas within the nonprofit that support just starting a business, right?
Right.
So I've definitely communicated with a lot of those communities. I've been a part of bigger conversations around how do I even get started with a patent, right? So I've spoken at these different nonprofits and functions, and as I mentioned earlier, I like to pay it forward. So if I can give people some reprieve
Mhm.
from, oh my God, it's a patent, I don't want to do it,
Right.
to, you know what, I should actually think about this. And now that I've spoken to Serena, I know what I can do to move forward and be okay doing that.
Mhm.
And in all honesty, the USPTO is sounds scary. Anything government that large sounds scary, right? So when you tell someone, "Oh, you need to apply through the USPTO," right away it's like it's never how much did it cost. It's always that's all right. That just seems too crazy. I don't really want to do that. But
Wow.
what's beautiful about the USPTO is they have so much help within their offices, and we have one here in Colorado, the Rocky Mountain USPTO, that are pro bono, that can give you that legal support that you don't have to pay for. Of course, you'll get to a point where you will have to come out of pocket, but
Mhm.
my me being able to have these conversations with communities, nonprofit or not, to say there are resources that can get you moving forward that don't cost you anything has helped so much, has helped so many people. Now that's not to say that everything is patentable, because it's
Right.
not. But that is to say that if you have an idea and you want to know sooner than later, usually later means you've spent a lot of money and you're like, well, there goes that, right?
Right.
So if you can have that support sooner than later, that at least gives you the knowledge of, yes, I should move forward, or this is a great idea, but I can't put a patent on it, but I can still sell it, right?
Right.
So just getting people comfortable with all the communities out here, whether I've spoken at them, whether they're there to help, whether they're um getting you halfway through the process or just the first part, because it's a journey and it's intimidating. So just trying to help people get through that is my offering, if you will.
Well, and it's kind of like one of those to whom much is given, much is required situations, because we mentioned earlier that you are quite possibly the only Black woman to receive a patent, at least in this century, in the
Right.
state of Colorado. One of the few to receive a patent in the country, and since like the 1800s or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you're talking about sharing your story and your, the testimony and process of getting a patent, then I'm automatically jumping to the conclusion, which I believe I'm right for, that you are the only one who looks like you most of the time in that room having this
Right.
conversation. And I'm wondering how your mentorship and your conversations differ from that of your counterparts who might be trying to help others get into this, get their patents done as well, but they don't have your background?
Right. That is such a that's a very interesting question that it has a heavy part of it too. So yes, when I'm in the room speaking about receiving a patent with counterparts, none of them look like me. Number one, most of them are white males. Number two, and three, most of them have come from means that have helped them get the money they need to get wherever they are.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of whammies, if you will, against me when I'm in the room, because these are all things that I didn't have the means. I didn't have the network of people that look like me to help me move past a lot of challenges. And the reason I say it's kind of hard and heavy in a way is because sometimes I want to hide behind my hood as the Black woman, and
Mhm.
I want to get a white woman or a white man to represent Tempus Hood, because I do feel there is some bias of all the stereotypes that go around Black people in general, but then a Black woman. And now this woman has a patent, but does she? Right? This woman has an awesome hood, but is it? There's all of these questions that I think come with me being the face of a product I'm trying to sell versus having someone represent me and not have that bias is, so that's what makes this conversation a little bit, or that question a little bit heavy, is because it should be celebrated that I'm a woman, an African American woman, what, like the 40th or 41st in the US since the late 1860s, potentially the first in Colorado since the last century to receive a patent. Those are all celebrations, right? But when you're trying to get investors, or when you're trying to get people to support your business, it does make you question, did they tell me no because of this? Or did they tell me
Mhm.
no because they actually didn't think my product was capable of the loan or whatever I'm asking for, right?
Mhm.
So I hope and I pray, that there is someone out there that's like, let's celebrate what she's done, not how she looks.
Mm.
And the how she looks is just a holy smokes, and she's a Black woman, right?
Right.
Not a she's a Black woman.
I mean, oh man, yeah. You said there's a heaviness, and there absolutely is. I can tell you on Comeback with Erica Cobb, this is a very safe space because most of my listeners look like us. They're other Black
Right,
women, they're women of color, or they are people who are allies of Black women. That's why they came here. Okay.
right, right.
Uh,
Which is so great. Yes, I love it.
Yeah, there's so many podcasts that they could possibly listen to, but resonating with the message and also wanting to hear from our experiences in a
Yeah.
real way, in a authentic way. And so when I think about that too, we speak very openly on
Mhm.
this podcast because these are things that we do have to carry. And the idea that you are so successful in every area of your life, and this is the stop down to essentially gaslight yourself. And I feel that because I will say that all the time, like I am totally gaslighting myself, especially when I'm in spaces where I am, quote, the example, or,
Right.
quote, the exception for someone who's like, well, you represent us because they're not going to allow me to. And I'm always like, we just got to figure out a way for
Right.
you to have your most authentic journey, because it's not that you're not allowed to. We just got to get you in on where you shine.
Yeah. Right.
So in this conversation, it's like you already are shining, your product is shining. What does success look like to you, short term and long term?
Yeah. So short term for me is, having these conversations for sure. Being able to help others that look like myself or look like us to understand this process and want to be a part of this process, whether it's just entrepreneurship and or a patent, right? Just the whole entrepreneurship piece in general. But so short term, that's my focus. Of course, selling more hoods is also great. But long term, I would like to get my patent licensed out to an outdoor company,
Mm.
right? You throw around North Face, Patagonia, the big guys, but even just a small boutique outdoor operation that can recognize the design of my patent, the credibility of my patent, and want to add it as an accessory to their line themselves is my long term plan. So
Mm.
before COVID hit, I was trying to identify licensing companies and that kind of thing to fly out to visit, to meet, in hopes to move that part of my hood down the road, because that's ultimately where I want to go. I don't want to sell my hood forever. But I do think that it's such a great complement or accessory to an outdoor type vendor, an outdoor type company.
No, I agree. I agree. I mean, the first thing I really thought about was, and I'm literally just, we were talking about like having a group conversate, like think tank conversation. I'm like, man, the Tempest Hood makes such good swag. Cause I go to a lot of events and you get
Right.
swag bags, and swag, for those of y'all who don't know, is the stuff we all get, right? And it just makes so much sense for a Tempest Hood to be in a swag bag, because that's where a lot of really great concepts
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
come from anyway. So yeah, that was the first I was like, huh, if I got a swag bag with the Tempest Hood, because I give away a lot of things in my swag bag, I would keep that.
Sure. I love that. I love that. No, that's great. I mean, I think that to me, that is that hits an audience that I probably would never hit on my own. Right.
Mhm.
So adding it to a swag bag or having it be a part of a giveaway, which I've done in the past too. Those types of things are like, you never know how long that it elevates you to a place that you may not have gone on your own,
Right.
which I love.
Right, because you never know who's gonna get it.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, come back, kids. We're talking with Sirena Rolfe. She is the inventor of Tempest Hood, already patented. I feel like we're on this journey with you,
I
and
love it.
being so transparent with what's happening in the moment, where you want to be. Is there someone that has kind of had the recipe for success that you look at and you're truly inspired by?
Yeah. So I'm gonna screw up her last name. I can't remember her last name, but Sarah B, who is the inventor of Spanx.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Her journey is so
Mhm.
it really is bootstrap, right? Like she shows a picture of her sitting on the floor with the nylons and cutting them and in her living room, and then just her journey of making it to where she is today. To me, I resonate so well with, because it feels like her story from the beginning, not like, oh, she's just a millionaire, that's awesome.
Right,
Right,
right.
like you get to see it, and I follow her, and I just love, she just seems so genuine. She seems like she'd be a good girlfriend,
Mm.
right? Like someone you could just sit down and have a great conversation with and not even recognize her success, because she seems so genuine. So I feel like she's the person that I definitely admire and follow for that reason.
You know what's so interesting about Sarah too is, I mean, yeah, you do feel like you were on that journey, but I also am very clear in where I first saw her, where saw her the second time. And I believe the first time it was Oprah, and the
Okay.
second time it was with Richard Branson, or Sir
Oh,
Richard Branson, on the
yeah.
show, that there were a show from a long time ago where there were a bunch of inventors who were
Mhm.
trying to get their products out. And so when we talk about the power of, now we talk about it more along the lines of the power of social media.
Right.
But at that time, it was definitely the power of broadcast. And not that that's fallen off, but it very much was that. It's just having a great idea, and then your time strikes where the opportunity comes together, and it has nothing to do with luck. It has more to do with preparation.
Right.
So, Serena, I am 1,000,000% sure that you're prepared, and when your time comes, it's going to take off like like no other, because I think it's such a brilliant idea. I'm so happy you came on to talk to us and come
Thank
back with
you.
Erica
Yeah.
Cobb. Is there anything that you want to share with our comeback community? And definitely let us know where we can find Tempus Hood.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. This has been awesome. I love, again, paying it forward however I can, for sure. Um and I think I just want the community that's listening to know that um there's so many things that are gonna, as Black women, that are gonna frustrate us, right? Let's not let it be our hair, right?
Mhm.
Let's figure out a way, whether that's, the braids like you have, Erica, whether that's the curls that I have, or whatever it is. I just feel like our hair has held us back from doing so much more.
Mm,
And that's another reason that Tempus Hood is so important to me, because it allows us who are out and about to not worry about the rain or the light snow or the wind. It allows us to continue to enjoy getting that much needed vitamin D, and taking care of ourselves mentally as best we can with fresh air on a regular basis. So I think that that's just so important. So with regards to finding me or supporting me, my website is tempushood.com. So TEMPUS hood.com. And so, yeah, I love any and all support that your listeners have. All of this is just amazing. And so I appreciate all of it.
well, Serena, I appreciate you. My comeback community, please follow the journey of Tempus Hood, because this is, I mean, how often do we get a chance to like be a part of a journey of a dream coming to fruition? And that's what we're being offered right now. And for a lot of you, you may be thinking like, this is something that I need in my life. I agree. I feel the same way. How do I get in on this journey as well? So for more on Sirena and Tempus Hood, go to my online home where you can find the full podcast at comeback.tv. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank